All right, number 8, let's call this one Slash in honor of former NFL quarterback Kordell Stewart, known as Slash, because even though he was drafted as a quarterback, of course, there are times when you got to wait your turn, and he had to wait his turn to play quarterback. He was actually pressured to play wide receiver. And even though he stuck to his guns for good reason, he ended up saying that I am willing to fill in at any role that you need me. And that turned into him getting snaps at running back, snaps at wide receiver, snaps at quarterback. And before his career was over, he would even punt for 2 different teams, all on his way to making the Pro Bowl in 2001, and eventually that same year finishing 4th in the voting for MVP of the entire National Football League. And so why am I mentioning that and talking about numbers 8? Well, it is the chapter in which the Levites are being consecrated, and as they are being consecrated for service, we are seeing them fill in the role of Slash. You can't really narrow them down to one thing. Why? Because they were commissioned originally as people who stepped in to help abate God's anger during the time of the golden calf, as we've already talked about. They stepped up, and that's how they ended up being consecrated for his service in the first place. They ended up also filling the role of the firstborn. So instead of God taking the firstborn from each family, he simply designated the Levites to fill that role. So they were Slash substitutes for people who would have otherwise lost their firstborn sons to the service of the Lord. And then in doing that service, they provided security, as we saw back in chapter 3. Not only security, they provided caretaking for the different implements. And of course, Aaron and his sons were Levites, and so they fulfilled the role as priest as well, fulfilling the title of Slash. And so that is why I thought about it today. And of course, we always look for a practical application, hopefully making this a shorter video since we're going into the weekend, but understand the application for you. Much like Kordell Stewart, there may be some things that you are extremely gifted to do, but I just got a chance to see another great athlete, Draymond Green, playing summer ball with some aspiring NBA players, and he got frustrated at the end of the game, and he gave them a speech at the request of the person who had put together that private run. He said, I cannot believe you guys want to play in the NBA. There are only 2 or 3 people on the court at one time who are going to get to do whatever they want with the basketball. Everybody else has to learn to fill a role, Slash. And he understands that well because he has won multiple NBA championships filling in a Slash type role. And he was looking at these aspiring NBA players, seeing them lapse in all the things that makes for longevity and success in the league, and understand those are some of the same things that I believe make for longevity and success in life, much like Kordell Stewart was willing to do on his way to becoming a Pro Bowl quarterback until he got even his first start in the NFL. He was willing to be Slash. Understand the Levites were great because of their willingness to be Slash. And likewise, there are times when our talents may also not be quite as obvious. And in order to expose what our true talents are, we have to be willing to fulfill roles, as we so often say around here, that may be less popular. Why? Because there are times when God will simply step up and meet you halfway when you have agreed to step up on his behalf. James is going to say in verse 17 of James 5, Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, and he prayed fervently that it might not rain. And for 3 years and 6 months, it did not rain on the earth. Then he prayed again, and heaven gave rain, and the earth bore its fruit. Likewise, David, it doesn't say that God told him to go kill Goliath. He simply saw an opportunity in 1 Samuel 17. And then likewise, we've already talked about the way these Levites were essentially set apart for duty in the first place, was the way in which they stepped up in a time when the rest of the nation strayed. And so while you are waiting for your time to do whatever it is that's really on your heart, understand the value of willing to be Slash, ready to do whatever is necessary, and understanding the ways in which God will often add to your gifts to the degree you're willing to step up and fulfill different roles. But as we say, it's best to you as you go forward in him.